Want to see my art? Haha, JK. Unless I actually show you some pleasant art. Here's a lovely little commission for Edith on Twitter. I suppose I should have looked up her Twitter handle so I'm not just floundering like an idiot like I'm already am, but I suppose I will just put her link in the description. So what this is it's a Gijinka of Primarina from Pokemon. Now, I may have just said 3 words that you have no idea what they are, but don't worry, I don't know what they mean either. Some sort of silly nerd thing. Some sort of silly video game thing. No, I'm kidding. Gijinkas are this cool little thing where people make fan interpretations of what a character that's normally like an animal or a creature or like an object, but they make it designed as a human. And this is Edith's design, and she was lovely enough to commission me to illustrate her design in my style, and I think it turned out pretty cute. Hopefully everyone else thinks it turns out cute too, because look at that. She's got a little I don't remember the name of that thing. Poplio? Pooplio? The little seal thing. She's got a little seal thing. It's a funky little buddy. It's a little dude. Nah, but honestly, I have never played Pokemon in my life. Never played a Pokemon. Don't know what it is. Yes, I had no childhood, etc., etc. I was too busy playing the ripoff for Nintendo DS. I was playing Spectrobes. Beyond the Portals. I have no clue what a Pocket Monster is, and I'm not planning on starting now. I've made it this far in my life without understanding what Pikachu is. And I consider that a win. No, but in all seriousness, I'm difficult to describe what the process for this is, because as you saw, just did some sketchies, did some flats underneath, and then I hardline the outlines to give it that cool hard line effect. And then I start shading and shadowing the insides. I add creases where there are creases. I add highlights. Way too many highlights, but hey, more highlights, more fun, more eye exposure, more blindness induced by my art. So any day that someone is blinded by looking at my art, I consider that a win. In fact, the way that I ask my friends how my art looks is if I show it to them, and if they don't do the my eyes thing from SpongeBob that the fish does, then it's a failure. I have to make sure that all of my friends are just playing the sound clip of my eyes, because otherwise that means there's not enough highlights. That means I need to make it even more overexposed. That means I need to make it even higher contrast. But really, at the end of the day, when I'm making art, I ask myself, what catches my eye the most? If this were against a backdrop of 57 other drawings, what would make it stick out? What would make your eyes go to it the fastest? What would make it the most visually interesting? So that of course brings into multiple things like composition, color choices, and of course contrast. Contrast is one of my favorite things to play around with in art. Low contrast is great for moodiness and large scenes, and high contrast is fun because you can just destroy someone's corneas, and I crave that sort of power in everything I do. Every time I get a taste of destroying someone's eyeballs, I get slightly closer to power. Nah, but at the end of the day, the one lesson I've learned is that when in doubt, make it pink. Make it pink and high contrast and lots of highlights. And you know what? It worked so far, so I'm just gonna keep doing it till I get bored. You know, my favorite part of working on this commission was probably doing the hair, because the hair is a really fun texture and there's a lot of it. So that means I can do a bunch of crazy nonsense, and I can put weird little flicks of things everywhere, and I can make sure that it's really shiny. So that's always a lot of fun, is making floofy hair. And that's part of Edith's design anyway, was making the hair super floofy. So I tried to emulate that when sketching. Edith's design had really big poofy hair, and I don't think I made mine near as poofy as it should be, but I tried. I tried so hard, and I got so far. And in the end, it's still pretty floofy. I like it. I think it's cute. It's pretty cute. But one thing I did want to bring up about working on this is that actually while I was making it, I couldn't really settle on a style. I was messing around with thick lines, empty insides with not very much shading, a little bit of highlights. And near the end is when I decided, you know what? Highlights. Highlights are the good stuff. But this is the part of the image where I was actually able to figure out what exactly it is I wanted to do. I wanted, okay, hyper reflective surfaces for sure, with small amounts of shading, hard shading in some parts, soft shading in others, and mostly with the focus on really hard, solid edges mixed with smooth shading. So that contrast is there. A lot of my influences lately have been artists like Michelle Foos, who made Ava's Demon, and Junko Mizuno, and Kamiya de Erko. People who make super high contrasty, beautiful, like really saturated art, and usually with hard outlines. So I've just been really into that lately. Just loving that sort of aesthetic. And then of course League of Legends splash arts are always an influence, but I've been trying to steer away from semi-realism and more back into cartoony, just for a sense of exploration and liberation of art styles mostly, so I can try and experiment more. Because I feel like I can test out and test the limits of my realism experience pretty much anytime I want to, but the cartooniness is something that I will definitely always come back to. And I like to switch between the two and kind of muddle them sometimes. Sometimes I like art that looks hyper-realistic or semi-realistic, and then sometimes I much prefer cartoony. And it's all a matter of mood, and lately I've been really much more preferring the cartoony, and I'm sure I'm gonna flip the switch and go back to the other sometime soon, but until then I'm gonna enjoy this little bout of cartooniness that I've been into. And it's just been a blast doing all the beautiful hard, crisp edges with cartoony physics and anatomy. And it's just so entertaining because I feel that realism can sometimes limit what you can do. But also simultaneously, I really like doing realism mostly just to test my capabilities in understanding realistic lighting, mostly. But most of my goals in art is to find the perfect combination of the two styles and mix them together to create the ultimate art style. That is my main goal. That is when I will consider my art style truly found and settled and cemented, is when I learn to ultimately combine the aspects of cartoony art that I love to mix with realism. And I feel that artists that do this amazingly are like Sergei Birov or Oscar Vega. Those are great artists. I just love the hyper-realistic cartoony. That is the best of both worlds, in my opinion. And so I've always been rushing to try and find the ultimate combination of those two. You know what? It's that, or I get bored of both styles, completely changing direction halfway through my artistic journey, and just start something completely new that has no relevance to any of the previous skills I've acquired. Who knows? Let's waste all my time. Let's waste every single bit of life I have on this earth. Let's do it. Let's spend years honing an art style and then spitting it out like garbage because we decide we don't like it later on. Like, some people do that. I don't know. I'm too late into this. If I give up my style now, then I have to start from scratch. And nobody wants to do that. Actually, I can't think of anyone who's ever given up their art style to do something completely different than what they already did. Even if they do a new style, it's usually in the same direction. But either way, look at how pretty the picture is. It's just so nice. It's got shinies everywhere. Isn't that pleasant? Thank you for listening to me ramble. Hope you like the art.